Dear students, welcome to our discussion on Module 3, in which we will start looking into the problems of linear programming and discuss a very popular method known as simplex method. As the name suggests, linear programming is an optimization method that would be used if both are constraints as well as objective function, they are stated in a linear form. Now, when we were looking into Kahan-Tucker conditions, we realized that the number of differentials that we have to take, or if our number of constraints increase, number of conditions that we have to check in both in case of Lagrange multipliers as well as Kahan-Tucker conditions, our computations become time and cost prohibitive. Also, whenever there is problem with the differentiability or continuity of the function, looking into Lagrange multipliers and Kahan-Tucker conditions are going to be more challenging task. So when we talk about applying optimization methods to real world problems, this linear programming got a bit of history. That is, during World War II, there was a greater need to look into optimization method, and a scientist named Dantzig looked into this method of formulating the objective functions as well as constraints in form of linear equations and inequalities, which gave birth to a very popular method known as simplex method to solve the problems of linear programming. Also, if we talk about the real world applications of linear programming, and we will refer to linear programming as LP, so it is widely used, and some of the first industries to adapt these methods, they were petroleum industries. As you may know that in petroleum industries, there is a process called as a fractional distillation, and fractional distillation determines what is the fraction of diesel versus kerosene, what is aviation oil we are going to get, and the output critically depends upon what is the availability of crude oil, what is the capacity of a refinery, what is the energy consumption that we want to minimize, and so on. So also crude oil is not only governed by quantity but also the prices. So petroleum industry started formulating their problems as an objective function to maximize their profit, subjected to the constraint on resources as well as on the capacities. From communication side, the linear programming methods are widely used to identify optimal communication routes, and we will adapt some of these communication routing problem to understand the water distribution network problem, or we call as water routing problems, where the domain of problem will change but we will try to have the solutions essentially similar. Finally, in the context of water resource systems, in your assignment you already got exposure to two kind of problems, one dealing with quality and another dealing with quantity. So whenever we were dealing with quality, we were talking about that dissolved oxygen should be greater than certain threshold. And if you look at the kind of constraints and objective function we were formulating in that problem, they were essentially linear, and hence, since both objective function as well as constraints are linear, methods of linear programming would be useful there. Similarly, in second problem, where you were looking at the problem of multiple reservoirs and amount of releases to be made, so that the targets of irrigation and flooding, they are optimized, we were essentially looking at the challenge of water quantity or water allocation, and then essentially we can also formulate our constraints in linear form, and again linear programming methods would be very useful. So let us try to look into that what a standard form of linear programming problem would look like, so that when we go towards problems we are familiarized what we are going behind. So if we talk about the standard form, most of the problems that we would deal with, we will try to state our problem in form of minimize f of x, where f of x is given by c1 x1 plus c2 x2 all the way till cn xn. Now c1, c2 all the way till cn, these are called as parameters, and x1, x2 would be our decision variables. and our objectives would be to find the optimal values of x1, x2, xn such that our objective function is minimized. Also, we know that if our problem is stated as maximize f of x c1 x1 plus c2 x2 all the way till cn xn, we can say that its equivalence is minimize gx equal to minus c1 x1 minus c2 x2 all the way till minus cn xn. So again, if you know the maximal form, we can always get the minimal form so that we can express our problem into the standard form. Now, this is a setup of a linear programming when there are no constraints. But in most of the real world problems, we will deal with constraints, and hence the constraints in linear programming are going to look like a11 x1 plus a12 x2 all the way till a1n xn equal to b1. So these are equality constraints where a11, a12, a1n are the constraints associated with the first equation. For example, this could be our material constraint that only 10 units of x1 are available, 20 units of x2 are available, and their total is known in one form or another. And this becomes our standard equality constraint in linear form. Similarly, we can have for n variables m constraints, which we can extend these same equations as a21, a22 x2 plus a to n xn equal to b2. And if you have to write the mth constraint, we can write this as am1 x1 plus am2 x2 plus amn xn equal to bm. Now there are three setups possible. So if we have m equations and n variable, our number of variables can be equal to m or number of variables equal to number of equations. And if we have this setup, there are only two cases possible. Either we have one unique solution, as you are solving two equations, two variables, either there will be unique solution or there will be no solution. And we are restricting our discussions to real space, so there is no real number that can solve that system of equations, and only two scenarios are possible, and we are least interested to solve these kind of problems because most of the real world problems would have large number of constraints in comparison to number of number of variables that we have to solve for, and those are the typical problems that would excite us the most. So coming to that, let us say that we have more number of variables than equations or less number of variables and more equations. So let us see that how we would deal with these kind of problems. So when our number of variables, they are more than number of equations, then we are essentially looking at the first case, that is n is greater than m. That would mean there would be certain variables that we would set to 0, and if there exists one solution, there exists infinite solution. By infinite solution, we would mean that we can always identify the combination of two columns that would give us multiple equation for the same system when we put certain variables to 0. When our number of equations are more than number of variables, that would mean there are certain constraints that are redundant and they can be eliminated using simple mathematical operations. So for example, one constraint is 2x plus 2y less than equal to 4. Another constraint is x plus y less than equal to 2. And we say that, see, these two constraints are essentially having same information, and one of these constraints can be eliminated easily. And typically when we have a setup n less than m, number of variables less than number of equations, certain constraints could be eliminated in the similar fashion. So the case that we would be most interesting to investigate is that when our number of variables are more than number of equations, we will set certain variables to 0 and try to obtain feasible solution or one of the solutions to the equations and then we will try to go from one solution to another. As I said, if one solution exists, there may be many possibilities to get solutions, and we will keep on jumping from one solution to another. And the problem of linear programming aims to find one of these solutions that satisfy the constraints, try to minimize f, and we say that that is going to be our optimal feasible solution. Now, with this background in mind, let us try to express the equations that we just formulated here into a compact form, what we call as a matrix form. We saw that we were dealing with x1, x2, x3 all the way till xn. So we define an n-dimensional vector x which comprises of x1, x2, x3 and so on, and its dimensions would be n cross 1. We define a coefficient vector a which comprises of all the coefficients that we encounter in constraints, and we arrange them as a11, a12, a1n. Here we will have a m1, a m2, a mn, and in between we can always identify aij, where I represents the row id in which row we are, j represents the column id in which column we are, and hence we can populate these coefficient matrix also. Also, we would define a B matrix which would comprises of a B vector which will comprise of left right hand side of all the constraints that we have expressed in equality form. Since there are m equations, we can write it as B1, B2, B3, Bm and so on. Now, in a matrix form, we can write our objective function as minimize f of vector of x equal to the dot product of C transpose times x vector. So we did not define C vector here. So our C vector will comprise of all the coefficients C1, C2, all the way till Cn, whatever comprises our objective function or OF. So this is C1, C2, all the way till Cn. So we can write this as transpose because its dimensions is n cross 1. Dimension of x is also n cross 1. So if you have to multiply two vectors together, their matrix multiplication should be compatible. And if we take transpose of C, it would become 1 cross n, and we are multiplying it with n cross 1. So the output should be one real number which we represent by r, and that is the minimal value that we are looking for. Also, we can express our constraints in an optimal form or in a compact form as fx equal to c transpose x is our objective function, and our all the constraints can be expressed as a times x bar equal to b. So this, and there is another constraint that we would have on all our x in standard form, that all the values of decision variables must be greater than equal to 0, because in real world this decision variable would always be a physical dimension. It would be either money constraint that we have, or a decision variable on material A versus material B, water quantity supplied to city A versus city B. So these dimensions are not supposed to be negative. We can never supply a negative amount of water to a city. We can never have a negative investment, or we can never have a negative amount of commodity being used in engineering problems. So this is always a governing constraint which we also call as the constraints on physical dimension. To sum up, and this is very important, that in standard form, our linear programming problem should look like a problem of minimization, all constraints of equality form, and all variables, all xi's should be greater than equal to 0. So this equality is for our constraints. Now another question arises, what if our constraints are of less than equal to form? So there we will introduce the concept of slack or surplus variables. So what these slack and surplus variables are? Let us try to examine them. If our constraint is written as a1x1 plus a2x2 less than equal to b1. Now to convert this less than equal to constraint into an equality constraint, we can always introduce an artificial variable. So this is an artificially introduced variable because it was nowhere present into our picture. We introduce it artificially such that this S1 has to be greater than equal to 0. And if we add it on this side, that would mean we are adding it in a way that all this less than equal to just converts to an equality constraint. And we call this variable that we have added as a slack variable. And these slack variables would be useful to reduce the problem that is not expressed in the standard form into the problem listed as equality form. Now we can introduce S1, S2, Sm if we have m inequality constraint and specifically less than equal to constraints. Similarly, if our problem is stated as a1x1 plus a2x2 greater than equal to b1. Now to make this variable or this sign equal to, we should take away something from left hand side so that the magnitude decreases and it becomes equal to b1. So we will now do a1x1 plus a2x2 minus s1 prime so that it becomes b1. Since we have already added a minus sign, our s1 prime again should be greater than equal to 0, and we call this variable that we add to convert greater than equal to an equality sign as surplus variable. And these surplus variables are introduced when we have greater than equal to constraints and we want to reduce our problem to our standard form. We will put all these concepts that we are building here to use when we go to the problem, but it is important to understand or internalize these interpretations. Finally, let us try to look into a geometric interpretation of linear programming problem using a simple two-dimensional problem which you have been learning since your high schools, but we will extend this discussion to multiple dimensions or n dimension space, and this geometric interpretation may not be that much easy to do there, but the concept or message would remain essentially same. So let us say we are looking for the problem of maximization of some objective function fx(y) which is equal to 50x plus 100y. So we have to choose value of x and y such that this function is maximized. If x and y belongs to a real space, the value could be infinity. However, there is a constraint that 10x plus 5y is less than 2500, 4x plus 10y is less than equal to 2000, and x plus 1.5y is less than 450. So now this is a two-dimensional problem. So let us plot it on graph paper and try to understand what is the feasibility region. I'm not plotting it to scale, but this would be good enough to give you an intuition. So our 10x plus 5y less than equal to 2500 would look something like this. Our equation 4x plus 10y less than 2000 would be somewhere here. And finally, x plus 1.5y would be somewhere. So I'm just drawing it to represent that how our constraints are going to look like. And if you plot exactly on graph paper, this would become very clear that on scale how it would look like. So these are our three constraints: 10x plus 5y less than 1000, 4x plus 10y less than equal to 2000, this is 2500, sorry, and this is x plus 1.5y less than equal to 450. And if we look at all these are less than equal to constraints, so the area of interest would be intersection of all these constraints, which is equal to the area that I have highlighted in red. And now we are trying to maximize our objective function, which is represented by 50x plus 100y. So let me draw it with a different color or blue color. So we want to identify the position, and we know that the maximization direction would be somewhere here. So I have to keep on shifting the line so that I do not leave this region or at the boundary, or I am at the boundary of this region, and maximize my results. So if I draw a line here and try to keep on shifting it until I just reach the boundary of my decision space, that is most probably going to be the most optimal answer that I am looking for. So to maximize my objective function, I should be at the boundary here or here, so that the value of my function is maximized. So this is C1, this is C2, where C2 is greater than C1. So one thing is for sure, that if our linear programming problem is framed nicely, we would have the optimal value occurring at the boundary of closed region, and this region would be a complex region, would be a convex region, because if you take any 2 points within this area, these 2 points are always going to be joined by a straight line which would always stay in the area that I have hatched with red. So the solution is always going to be on a boundary, and the region that we would end up with nicely posed constraints is always going to be a convex region. So with this background, we will try to identify that how many such boundary points we have, and if we have number of boundary points, what is the most feasible point, and simplex method would be the easiest way to go from one basic feasible solution to another basic feasible solution. So another question arises, that what does this word basic feasible, non-basic feasible, or basic non-feasible solution would mean, and that would be our topic of next video, where we will get ourselves familiar with the terminologies of linear programming. Thank you.